Cancer is an absolutely horrible thing. Personally, I lost my aunt due to cancer back last year. Rest in peace, Aunt Linda. This one's for you. And, I'm on a mission not only to improve people's health in general, but also to provide people with the knowledge necessary to reduce their risk of ever getting cancer, right? So what causes cancer? What's the deal with cancer? What's kind of going on in the body? How can we avoid it? And where should we start, right? So when it comes to cancer, let's talk about a few statistics right off the bat. 25% of the hundreds of different cancers that exist, 25% of all deaths due to cancer are caused by tobacco use. A quarter of them. Another 10% is caused by obesity, a sedentary lifestyle, and alcohol use. And this is worldwide. Now, when it comes to the United States alone, 20% of deaths due to cancer are caused by obesity, right? And the harmful effects it has on our physiological integrity and everything else in the body. Now, in the world, every year, 8 million people die from cancer. Now, that accounts for 14% of all deaths worldwide per year. So, how much of this is due to environment and how much is genetic? Well, because everything that we've talked about in terms of the percentages here, aforementioned, was an environmental influence, right? Whether it be alcohol or tobacco or sedentary lifestyle or having a poor diet, right? And sedentary lifestyle and a poor diet are contributors to about 35% of deaths due to cancer in themselves, right? And diet, of course. Diet, sedentary lifestyle, and being overweight, contribute to about 35%. So 90% of all cancers are environmentally induced. 90%, again, of all types of cancer are induced by the environment, by our choices, by our lifestyle habits, right? And here in the U.S., they're especially awful, right? With all the processed food that we have, our sedentary lifestyle, sitting behind a desk for 8 hours a day, not moving, not exercising. Exercise boosts your immunity, right? It's not just good for looking good and just feeling good in general, and helps to reduce your risk significantly for developing cancer. Not smoking, avoiding alcohol, not having a sedentary lifestyle, as we said, exercise, a healthy diet, not getting too much sun, albeit it's good, it provides vitamin D. Too much of anything isn't good. And wearing sunscreen are all things that can help to prevent cancer. Now, along with getting appropriate vaccinations for diseases that can cause cancer down the road, because it can be secondary to things like infection as well, or radiation, or taking in toxic chemicals and exposure to pollutants and things like asbestos, of course, right? So what is going on with cancer? Well, normally our cells will grow, they'll be maintained, and then they'll die eventually. And this programmed cell death, also known as apoptosis, is inhibited with cancer cells, right? So they just continue to grow and grow and grow. Now, cancer cells will continue to grow even despite damage to the DNA in those cells, which otherwise would have been terminated in healthy people, right? Our body would say, these cells are no good anymore. We're going to make new healthy cells. We're going to get rid of these ones. And in cancer, there's dysregulation there, right? They just produce more and more and more, and they proliferate, and it's a disaster, right? Now, with cancer cells, we have the cancer cells themselves. This is the parenchyma, and then you have the stroma, which is what feeds the cancer cells. That's the blood vessels. That's the connective tissue, but it also contains high levels of inflammatory cells. Inflammation itself can be a major contributor when it comes to the onset of cancer and this dysregulation in cell division, right? And inflammation can be induced by poor diet, by a lack of movement, right? And exercise, by taking in harmful chemicals, and even by stress, of course, and even by not recovering properly from an injury, right? And so maybe we don't think of things like that when it comes to cancer. But say you didn't recover properly for an injury. I think that's a good example of something that maybe wouldn't come to mind when you talk about something that could increase your risk for cancer, right? That's abnormal to us. And what happens is we're producing all these inflammatory cells. These inflammatory cells increase the proliferation or the division and perpetuation of new cells, right? And also contributes to angiogenesis. And that's the production of new blood vessels that could feed these potentially cancerous cells. So, when you look at it and you say, okay, people that come from Europe or anywhere outside the U.S. come to the U.S., their risk for colorectal cancer, for example, increases to become baseline with people who were born in the U.S. and their risk for colorectal cancer. So was it the different genetics that were playing a role here? Well, I don't think so, obviously, right? It's that they came here, they started eating all the crap that we eat, they started abiding to this unhealthy lifestyle that so many of us here in the U.S. have. And I'm not shaming this is not about shaming cancer, right? I'm extremely sorry if you know somebody who's passed. And like I said, I personally have experienced that. And it's just such an awful thing. This is to get people to realize there's a lot that we can do. It wasn't the cards that we were dealt. It's our lifestyle choices that can help to reduce our risk for developing cancer down the road. Less than 1% of people actually have genetic variants and a genetic defect or mutations, you could say, that will lead to cancer, right? And even people that have autoimmune diseases, people that were born with, say, celiac disease, right? They don't process gluten properly. Well, if they avoid gluten, their risk for cancer goes way, 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 way down. It almost didn't even matter that they had celiac disease, right? And so, even if you're born with some predisposition, know that you play a major role in determining the outcome of your health, and in many ways, of course, but also in regards to your risk for developing cancer. So, when you think of it, guys, and you think of, the cards we were dealt, that's an easy way to say, all right, that, I can't do much about this. I'm at a genetic predisposition for something. Really, that's not the player with so many things in life, and not just cancer. They talk even about neurodegenerative disease now, and you talk about the genes that are responsible for increasing somebody's risk for Alzheimer's disease, but really that's so environmentally induced, by alcohol use or tobacco use or unhealthy lifestyle choices and eating inflammatory foods and all sorts of things, right? So if we can just maintain a diet rich in whole foods, if we can avoid tobacco and alcohol, and we can exercise, and we can do other healthy things every day, then we can really, really slim our chances of developing cancer. So that is my message to you today, and I hope you take it and allow it to motivate you to be healthier. And I think it especially will if you know somebody that has cancer, if you've lost somebody due to cancer. Now, look at something like inflammatory bowel disease, and that will increase your risk for developing colorectal cancer. That's ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease, namely, right? And people that are at higher risk for cancer due to the inflammatory bowel disease, well, then they get all this treatment for it, and they get treatment for colorectal cancer once they have it, if it had progressed to that point. And now this treatment increases your risk for developing cancer in other areas of the body. So you were better off, of course, in the first place, just avoiding getting the disease, right? And it's things that you don't even think about. Really high levels of sodium. Sodium is an electrolyte, right? It's helped to replenish people after exercise. It has a whole bunch of functions, from muscle contraction and involved in thinking and regulating blood pressure and all sorts of things in the body. And we think of it often as an awful thing. Well, it's not in moderation. We do require sodium, right? Albeit you should be drinking a lot of water and balance the ion concentrations in your body. But even having excess amounts of sodium increases somebody's risk for stomach cancer. Why? They don't exactly know why, right? But what we know is you shouldn't abuse any single mechanism in the body with lifestyle choices. Our body is a biological machine, and if we put it under duress, whether it be with stress or lifestyle or diet, and we continue to do all these healthy things, eventually these biological mechanisms will fail, right? And that's something that obviously we would all like to avoid. So, not to get you too scared about life, but look at this tree. End up in better shape than this tree, although it's still kicking and it looks pretty cool, But How you guys doing today? I hope you're having a great day. Let's see who's on here. Oh, what are the most common cancers, by the way, if you guys were curious? Well, it's different for men and women, right? I believe skin cancer probably kills the most. And then lung cancer for both sexes is high up there. But in men, the most common cancers would be lung, colorectal, prostate, and stomach cancer, I believe. And in women, number 1 would be breast cancer. And then you have also cervical cancer, you have colorectal and lung cancer. So, why did I even mention that? Well, fun facts, but also, things to look out for, right? So, both, sexes had lung cancer on that list, right? And colorectal cancer on that list. That was common amongst both of them. And so you think, okay, maybe I'll think about my gut health a little bit more regarding colorectal cancer risk, right? Or maybe I'll stop smoking those cigarettes or using tobacco all the time, right? As lung cancer is up there for both sexes. So don't pay attention to the cards you were dealt. Pay attention to the cards that you allow life to give you and that you force life to give you, and make it give you good ones. What's up? That's it. We can talk for days. Dave, you're the man, dude. That's so funny. That would be something, huh? Womanless Tree revival time. Guy's a psycho out here. Me, I'm referring to. Xander James, how you doing? Skills. Amthal. J Pitt, Find Your Fitness Official. That one gay guy, how you doing? User Tour, wants you to do. Mano Salva, yes sir. Style Seats. Dave, first one of the day, man. Big supporter. Appreciate the love. Always, my brother. As for now, that's what we got for you, folks. We'll see you tomorrow, baby. Not sure where, not sure when, but we'll see you then. Have an amazing day. Go do something great for yourself. Happy Wellness. Take care.